A Fairfield man accused of shooting up 3 CMP substations earlier this year appeared in federal court in Bangor today. 54-year-old Thomas Welsh made his first appearance on one count of destruction of an energy facility. If convicted, he faces a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison and fines of up to $250,000. Welsh will stay in federal custody for now, though his attorney says they're working on a potential release plan to present to the judge. Welsh has not been indicted, so he did not enter a plea today. Recently filed court documents reveal more details about what officials say happened in February. According to the FBI, starting just after midnight until after 4 a.m. on February 15th, Welsh shot up 3 CMP substations in Windsor, Winslow, and Augusta. He told a friend he planned to target a substation in Albion, but it was too close to houses, and he didn't want to hurt anyone. According to CMP, the shootings caused several $1 million in substantial damages. While no motive is mentioned, the FBI notes Welsh's Facebook page contained posts referring to civil disobedience and his displeasure with the, quote, corrupt state and federal government.